Welcome back to the Garden Hutch. Today we'll discuss week 18 of 2022. Let's get going. Well, week 18 was wet. I guess that's really the only word you can use for it. The rain gauge here on the homestead said between Monday morning and Thursday evening, we got 5¼ inches of rain. There was standing water everywhere. We were fortunate we didn't have a lot of runoff. There was no flooding here, but here in the state of Arkansas, there were folks had to be rescued from flash floods, that sort of stuff. So our thoughts go out to all of you. I hope everybody's okay. Having said all that, all of that rain brings challenges with it, right? It's good to have the extra rain, especially when you have the raised beds that we've taken the time to layer, so they'll hold a little bit extra for the summertime. But with it, when it's that wet and it's that humid, you end up having a lot of issues with things like fungus and bacteria. You can also end up, a lot of your plants, we'll take a look at our cabbages here in a minute. A lot of your plants, the way they're designed, can hold water. And if there's too much water, it can cause a whole lot of other issues or whatever. But having said that, there are a whole lot of things that are going well this time of year for us. We have a lot of blooms. We'll do a little bit of a flower tour. We have a lot of stuff in our veggie gardens coming up. We've got a lot of work to do this week. We couldn't get in the gardens, and last time I spoke to you all, I talked about healing our potatoes. Well, the week we talked about that, the very next Monday, which was last Monday, that's when all this rain came, and it was ridiculous. I mean, the potatoes, it wasn't standing water because that soil drains really well because of the organic matter. But you couldn't step in the area that you need to use to heal it without, going up to your ankle. So anyway, we're going to get that done this week. And I'll show you a bunch of that here in a minute. But the first thing, as mentioned, let's take a look at these cabbages. Anybody who watches the channel knows that I'm really trying this year to get cabbages. It's the first year that we've really tried to grow them. We built this bed and we made the soil specifically for cabbages, hoping that we wouldn't have any issues. Well, we got black rot on our cabbage leaves. Black rot is a bacterial infection that comes from too much moisture. So again, like I said, we had 5¼ inches of rain last week, and whenever the sun came out Friday morning, everything was fine. We noticed this, I think it was Saturday evening, the cabbage that we pulled that was down there, that cabbage had just a little bit of brown on the edges. And because it had been so cloudy and then it was so sunny, I was wondering if maybe it just got a little bit of sun damage, and I didn't really think much about it. We came out the next morning and that cabbage was just, the whole thing was done. And every one of these cabbages had the outside of the leaves. So we acted quickly. What we did was we took a vinegar solution that was we mixed it a bit stronger than normal. We also put some neem oil in it, and we went through and sprayed the cabbages, and they have not, it's been 2 days since, and they have not, the black rot has not progressed. Now, you can see down here, these leaves are probably going to need to be pruned. Wow, there is still standing water on the inside of this cabbage. Look at that. But these outside cabbages, once everything stabilizes, I'm going to go through and prune all the bad off of them. I'm afraid to touch them right now. I don't want to stress them out any more than they already are. Having said all of that, if they don't recover, right, if we don't start getting better leaves from the bottom to kind of sun the cabbages, the heads themselves at least we saved, so we can still eat those. They just won't be as big as I was hoping. I was hoping to let them grow until mid-June, so we'd have massive heads of cabbage. But right now they're good size and they're edible. I just don't want to take a risk on losing them. We do have a backup plan. We have some peppers in the greenhouse that we have not gifted out yet. So if the cabbages end up having to be pulled early, that'll be just fine. We'll just put some stakes in this bed and we'll put in some bell peppers. While we're down here, we might as well take a look at the potatoes as well, I guess. you can see how much these guys have grown. Before, you know, they were barely up to my hand or so. So, you know, they were like 10 inches or so last week. They have doubled in size since this rain. So what I'm gonna do is, and I'll make a video, I've started some, I call them summer shorts. I've done some for salad. I'm gonna do them for healing the potatoes, that sort of stuff. And I'll do a comprehensive video at the end of the year. Anyway, back to the topic, I guess. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go through, and you can see this dirt down here is finally starting to dry out. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this, and I'll probably take the hoe and hoe it about 9-10 inches deep here and move that dirt over onto each side of these potatoes, and, you know, leave probably about, oh, I don't know, the top, I would say, I don't know, 6-7 inches out. And then I'll give it another week, and then we'll go through with straw, and we'll probably put in 3 or 4 bales of straw to cover those up and give the potatoes a chance to grow a little taller, so that we can see if we can't meet our 100-pound goal for the year. I kind of have a feeling that it's, I don't know, a lofty goal for this space, but, you know, it's worth trying. I had mentioned earlier about all the flowers in the yard, you know, and we do have them on the vegetables as well. But Leslie, last year, she took a lot of time to put in flowers that were returning every year, things that would come up in the early spring. So she put a lot of work in last spring for things that we didn't really get to see flower until this year. We've noticed a huge increase in early pollinators in our yard. And even though we don't have the bees this year, we still feel like there's a lot of pollinators. You can go and look at the zucchini and you can see all the pollinators. They're all in her herb garden and such. So I just wanted to take a minute and kind of go over all the flowers that we have already here in early May. So just a few things here in Leslie's herb garden that are coming up. You can see her lavender is flowering really well. And this stuff is so fragrant. She dried some of the flowers from this last year, and we put it in with our honey. Well, if we make some tea before bed, the honey goes really good in it. Over here, this is her geranium that's blooming. And we had a few things. She started these Sweet Williams. She started these from seed. We put them in last year and we didn't get any flowers, but this spring, all the work has really paid off. And then, I'm not sure what these are. Leslie's gonna do a video. She wants to go through and kind of explain what all of her flowers are and what their roles are, and pollinators and that sort of thing. And these are a prairie grass. And the pollinators, for whatever reason, they really love these guys. We mention a lot trying to plant flowers so you can bring pollinators to all of your gardens. So this is the old garden, and we have some, these flowers are starting to open here. And you'll excuse me, I'm terrible with names for flowers, but I'm sure Leslie will catch everyone up. All of these have drawn a large amount of pollinators to just this little bitty area. So there's really nothing from a vegetable standpoint over here that needs to be pollinated yet, but it's encouraging to see them coming by. And of course, our peas flowering. I don't know if you've ever smelled the sweet pea flowers, but they're amazing. No wonder the bugs like them. And then we'll take a look at the zucchinis now, because they are going pretty good right now as well. Well, all of the zucchinis have at least one flower on them now. So we were excited. We had the first of the female flowers open this morning. So we'll take a look at that real fast. So you can see here, you can tell it's female, of course, because at the bottom of it, you can see the little zucchini compared to over here. See that small stem right there on that flower? Let's just take him off. So this is a male flower, and you can tell because directly below the flower there's no fruit, and in comparison over here, that female flower obviously has the baby zucchini coming on it. So what we do is we've gone through this before, but we hand pollinate. So this morning I came out and just took a flower, take the petals off of it, and just take the inside portion and, you know, just match them up, and that way you ensure that all of your zucchinis are pollinated. I do the same thing when it comes to my melons and our winter squashes as well, just to make sure that we get the fruit, even though the pollinators are out and about and all of that sort of thing. Sometimes it's better to be safe than sorry. Also, somebody really likes squash flowers. Ray, you like squash flowers? So a topic I wanted to sort of touch on a little bit today is being self-sufficient. And for us, that means eating as many meals as possible directly from our yard. So what we started doing 2 weeks ago, every day for either lunch or dinner, we started having eggs with a salad. And that's because obviously those, the eggs we get from our chicken, the salad we get from our beds behind us. And what I've realized is we have eaten the last 2 weeks every day one meal from just this little 4x4 raised bed that we had, and we kind of designed it over the winter, and we learned a lot from last year as far as the salads and when they bolt and how to sort of fill in the gaps before they happen, sort of things. But anyway, the point is that every year you can get closer and closer, and I guess what I wanted to say is don't get discouraged if you can't do it your first year. If your first year you're not totally self-sufficient, nobody is. Nobody can do that. It's unrealistic. But we are incredibly happy because, this is our 4th year of trying to garden for ourselves and things, and each year we're getting closer and closer to our goal. But I just wanted to say this year we believe that from now all the way through until the first freeze, we'll at least be able to have a salad and eggs for one meal. Now, as we start getting more and more vegetables, it'll be more exciting because then we can substitute a whole nother meal with things like roasted zucchini or, potatoes, that sort of thing. As I say that, let's go ahead and take a look at what I'm talking about where our salads come from. We had made a video earlier, and I'll put a link right here above about how we do our salads, but just for the purposes of this video, you can see we'll take these bottom leaves down here that are starting to fall from the beets. The beet is done with these as far as, the assistance it needs to make the tuber itself. But we'll take these and we'll put them in our salad. So all you have to do, come out. Sometimes there may be none available, sometimes there's a bunch. But whenever you put all of your resources together, you can have a salad every day. So this is the first part. We'll come here and we'll take out any of these available leaves. The next place we'll stop is our lettuce bed. We call it that ironically, even though we start with lettuce, and then of course now there's peppers and kale and chard and all kinds of stuff in there. But at this time of year, it's early May, we can still grow lettuce here in Arkansas. In about 2 or 3 weeks though, lettuce will no longer grow without bolting. So we eat a lot of it right now. So we'll trim down. This is just a leaf lettuce that we have. We'll trim it. We'll also take the kale. And a lot like when we trim our beets, we trim the kale the same way. We look for any leaves that are on the bottom that may be below the roughage of the other plants. I'm seeing if we trimmed it pretty good. Oh yeah, see down there? Those 2 leaves right there would be perfect for the salad. And this one over here by the peppers. And kale is something that goes a long way. You don't really need a whole lot of because the leaves are so big, and while they don't look like it because of the curls, when you flatten them out, there is a lot of surface area, and it's a little thicker and denser than some of the other greens. So a little kale in in a salad goes a long way. And then we also will take out, we have these small little head lettuces, and they're never going to become a head because of this kale. But the reason we put them here is because we had more come up than what I thought. So we put them in here and the kale grew too fast. So, by the end of the week, we'll eat this whole thing of lettuce here. It'll be nice and tender because it doesn't have as much sun. You just don't want to leave it there too long, or it might end up dying off or wilting back because of its lack of sun. This cast iron planter is the last stop we make when we cut our greens. I don't cut a whole lot of this right now because the other ones are coming along really nice and I very rarely need it. I'm gonna let this kind of go up into the head shape that it would naturally take. But what we will do is every once in a while, you'll see how these leaves here, just like the other ones, will fall down. This one will probably do that. But once it starts, instead of being part of the actual head itself, once it starts kind of drooping, before it can turn brown or before it touches the ground, I like to go ahead and cut it off, and it'll take a day or so for that to happen. And we'll just add it into our salad. Way we look at it is if this plant is done with it, then heck, we'll eat it, right? Well, as you can see here on the homestead, things are coming along really nicely. Even after last week and all the weather and not being able to get outside, we still got quite a bit done. I was able to spray the fruit trees for the first time on Friday, and that was awesome. I feel way better having that done. I also have all the dates put on my calendar. Since the flowers fell, now I feel like we're gonna find out if all of the attention we gave the fruit trees is worth it. Also, our blackberries are starting to bloom, so that's really exciting. Oh, I was laughing at myself because the strawberries, after all that rain, there are blooms everywhere. And every time I have to pick the flowers off, I die a little bit inside because strawberries are my favorite. But I am holding out hope that it pays off in the end. You know, you never can prove the negative, but I'm going to convince myself it was worth it somehow. So anyway, so come, you know, the first of next month, we'll be able to let the flowers go to strawberries, and that'll be exciting. We covered the area that we're going to grow our tomatoes in for seed. We haven't planted the tomatoes in there yet. I'm not real worried about how much of a production I get from those tomatoes. That's the reason why. So I'm kind of baby them in their pots until it's time to put those in. I think that might be about all. Like I said, a lot of last week was spent inside. It just rained and rained, and when it wasn't raining, there was, you know, so much water you couldn't do a whole lot. But I'd just like to say, as always, I appreciate those of you who have stuck with us to the end. If you have not, please consider subscribing to the channel. It does go a long way in helping us out. You can hit the little bell icon. YouTube will let you know when we upload new content. And until next time, I hope that you folks take care of yourselves. Peace.